Good afternoon and welcome to this NetSuite Planning and Budgeting webinar. This is the second part of a series of 3. My name is Campbell McLeish. I'm the Head of Sales and Marketing at Nolan Business Solutions, and I'm here with Mahdi, who's the Account Executive at NetSuite Planning and Budgeting for EMEA. He'll be carrying out the demonstration on today's webinar. So the session today is half an hour long, so we're running from 12:30 to 1 o'clock this afternoon. So I will pass over to Mahdi now to go through the workforce planning aspect in NetSuite Planning and Budgeting.
Fantastic. Okay, so as Campbell mentioned, my name's Mahdi Abbas and I am the NetSuite Planning and Budgeting Account Executive, and I'll be running through the demonstration today. I specifically work with the channel, so specifically with Nolan Business Solutions very closely, and we're working together for this web series event. As mentioned today, we'll be going through the workforce planning element, but before we do, I just want to run through a few slides for today's presentation. So this is a quick safe harbor just to state that everything that will be shown today will be specifically what's currently in product at the moment. We won't talk about any forward-looking statements or any future updates as of yet, though we can discuss this if this is of interest in a one-to-one call later on. So what is NetSuite Planning and Budgeting? For those who don't know, we are the industry-leading FP&A solution native to NetSuite, and it's based on Oracle's Hyperion and Essbase technology, which I'll get into again in a little bit. But just to give you a bit of background, we offer trend and driver-based revenue and expense forecasting, working capital, workforce planning, which I'll be touching on today, financial forecasting around your P&Ls, cash flows and balance sheets, and much more, as we're able to integrate not only with the likes of NetSuite ERP, but other different open source systems, such as Microsoft, which I know that Nolan works quite closely with, and we've created an integration for that directly pans through to NetSuite Planning and Budgeting, but also other systems like HR, payroll, expensing, of which I'll be touching on the HR elements today. Now, with the solution, it does give you better forecasting accuracy with predictive planning. It allows you to do easy to compare what if scenarios to improve your strategic decision making. And it sits on top of the world's most robust Microsoft integration, which we call SmartView. And we say Microsoft Office integration because it integrates with the likes of Word, PowerPoint, and Excel for those ad hoc reporting needs. So for those who don't know, what is Hyperion? Back in 2007, Oracle acquired Hyperion for $3.3 billion. Back in those days, it was very much on-premise and in a room probably the size that you're sitting in now watching today's presentation, which used to cost $1 million to purchase and $250,000 per year to maintain and support. Oracle did this to become the leader in EPM solutions, so enterprise performance management. And it was very much a land and expand strategy against SAP, as SAP did not have anything around the financial planning and analysis area. They only had ERPs and general ledgers. So this was really to monopolize the market, in which they became the market leader. And as you can see in front of you, we're on the Fortune 100 list. As you can see here, we are the named leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant report, and we have been since since Oracle had acquired Hyperion back in 2007. So year on year, we've been in the leaders circle and at the very top and the furthest to the right-hand side than any of the other vendors that you can see here today. Now, since our inception, NetSuite Planning and Budgeting since 2017, since Oracle had acquired NetSuite back in 2016, we have more than 850 customers to date, with across 35 different industries, across more than 40 countries, and with more than 12,000 users. Please bear in mind, this is also a snapshot from April of last year, so the customer numbers are actually closer to 1,000 plus, and the user numbers are actually more than 15,000 across the board. Now, in terms of what NSP delivers, We have actually done a independent survey from the Oracle Value EPM survey team and the Oracle Value Index team, and here's what they've come back with. That our customers, after 12 months of using NSPB, have seen more than 15% increase in forecasting accuracy, 27% increase in value-added analysis, 53% improved communication and collaboration between teams, especially when you're having to manually consolidate departmental budgets, which is an area that we remove from the planning and budgeting area by giving the collaboration between those different department heads. 28% increase in rolling forecasts, 44% reduction of time in producing management reports, and also a 71% reduction in the use of spreadsheets for the budgeting process. A customer like you, Cameo, who are a retail core business, this was a quote from their CFO, Bertrand David, who'd said, NetSuite planning and budgeting enables us to focus on our retail core business and empower financial analysts and controllers to improve our decision making by acting on the future rather than struggling to analyze the past, which to me is a very, very powerful statement coming from the CFO of Cameo here. Right, so without further ado, let's jump into NetSuite planning and budgeting, and I can give you a scope of the workforce planning element. Okay, so before I get into the workforce planning card you'll see that you can see here in front of you, I just wanted to touch on the fact that I'm logged in today as an administrator. Now, as you can see, we've received a couple of announcements from our CFO. Let's just have a quick see what they are. So we will need to review the revenue assumptions and increase revenue in FY21 by 5%. The CFO requests that we adjust the budget to include a 10% reduction in operation expenses for the coming fiscal year of FY21, and that we need to review the accounts receivable and accounts payable assumptions to update the balance sheet and cash flow. Beyond that, there is also a point here that he's made that each sales professional needs to add their projections in. So please update your sales projections on the last week of every month to make sure that they're up to date for the coming month. Now, beyond that, we also have our recents tab, which just shows a full audit trail of everything that's being reviewed, changed, and edited within the solution, meaning that no matter who's logged in, whether it's myself as an administrator and I've logged in earlier today, or whether it's anyone else within the organization who has a license, any changes, any reviews to any of the reports or dashboards within the solution come with a complete time and date stamp. So if any changes are made, you'll be able to go back and see who's made those changes, when and why. Now, if we were, for instance, to work within these specific reports on a daily basis, then we can push the start button and add them to our favorites, meaning that they're just a very 2 clicks away, a very quick and easy way to get to the reports that we know that we are currently looking at on a daily basis. Beyond that, we have 2 types of dashboards within our within NetSuite planning and budgeting. The first one I'm going to show you now, and then the second I'll show you when we get into the workforce planning elements. Now, the one that I've clicked into at the top, you can see I've got my home screen, and then what we have here are called KPI infolets. The KPI infolets are very card cluster-based dashboards which can gather any and all information, whether they be financial, sales, or operational, or anything in between. So as you can see here, we've got information on both our cash flow, our income statement, or P&L as it were, our OPEX expenses, and so on and so forth. But we can again have this based on KPI metrics or any other data that you'd like to review against. Now, all of these are completely highlightable, meaning that you can gather the information of the numbers as and how you're clicking into them. We're looking at our budget trend here at the income statement level, but you can also flip over to gather some more information. So now we're looking at our actual trends, based on the information that we have here, and we can highlight over these from any and all areas. And we can also expand across it again. So now we're looking at our actuals versus budgets across the P&L or income statement. So it's, again, all of these are completely interchangeable. You can create them from drag and drop editors, so you can have as many or as few as you like, and they can report against any and all data that comes into NSPB. So I'm just going back to my home screen, and I'm going to click into my workforce planning element. Now today we're looking at the UK model rather than any others, so that we can see what our own guidelines are to being able to pull this information through. So as you can see here, we're looking at our employee details of the full company roster. If I scroll down, you'll see that we've got everyone from all different areas and all different sides of the organization, including our to be hired right at the very end. You'll notice as well at the very top that we've got our start date and end date, as well as employee grades, if grading is something that you do within your organization, of which they can all be changed from different drop downs. We've got our job titles, which also come from drop downs. This information can come from your HR or payroll data that comes in, of which we can do a direct integration to any of those open source systems, or if you want to keep the cost of implementation low to begin with, what we can do is we can upload CSV files via SmartView, which I'd shown last week. This way you don't have to add the cost in, and if you've got a very low turnover of staff, then it might be easier for you in that respect. Beyond this, we've also got our bonus structures and overtime, the date of birth of each of the team members who are part of the team, what type of pension they're attributed to, whether it be private or the standard one, what type of healthcare, and if they're attributed to that, their annual London weighting, because we're looking at this organisation being based within London and the UK, their starting salary, which is blocked off because it's usually set at individual employee level from the new hire spectrum. An annual salary override, so for instance, if someone has in their contract that they are due an upgrade at the end of the year, for instance, even though some organizations it might be on an annual or biannual basis, they may have in their contract that their salary will be reviewed based on performance later in the year. And then the type of departments that they're allocated to and the percentages that each person is allocated with. So we can see here at the very top, Tom Anderson is allocated to both the sales and the products department at a 90-10 split, which I'll get into again within a second. So if I click into my add new hires, you'll notice here that we're able to add all this initial base information and which department, which grading, which title, and so on and so forth that we had seen previously in the previous tab. If I go to manage department allocations, this is where we can choose which department each person is allocated to, and as you can see, there's 5 different drop downs here, just in case they're a multifunctional person or a generalist, as it were, and they are having those allocations based to multiple departments, and you can see the percentages here. If we were to make a change to these percentages, then you would notice at the end that the allocations would not be valid, and then there would that would show up in red to mark and hinder the fact that this person, for instance, to be hired 8, is only at 80% to one department, but we haven't specified what the secondary department is and what that department percentage is either. Moving forward, we've got our employee status, of which we're really trying to understand who's active within the organization and who's not. Where a person may be shared. So for instance, you can see here the to be hired 6 is between sales and support, and they're shared between both departments, meaning that they're still active, but at the same time they're shared across 2 different department allocations. Whether they're within the organization or they've departed, whether they're at a leave of absence, or whether in the past year someone's been unlucky enough to get one of these. So it's really dependent on each organization. Obviously, leave of absence can be many things. It might be sick leave, it might be maternity, paternity. We've put leave of absence there as a purpose for demonstration, but you can have all of those as drop downs thereafter. And you're seeing that these here at the front, the first two months, January and February, are actuals, because they are actually they are the actuals for the month. We're forecasting for from March onwards, but we've got our actuals in already for January and February. Now here you can see we've got a range of different dashboards, all of which are completely drillable. So you can drill through to each individual department. You can drill into salary and benefits to understand more information about each of these lines. Now we can also make changes against each of these dashboards quite intuitively and quickly by going to our settings option and changing from, for instance, a line graph to a bar graph. And quite quickly in the background, you'll see those changes made. If I want to have a deeper look at these, I can also expand the dashboard ahead. You also notice that we're looking from Jan FY20 to December FY21. So we've got a full 2-year forecast against our total company salaries and benefits. But these are just some of the dashboards that we have. And these are also made from drag and drop editors, meaning that you can have as many or as few of them as you want. You can choose the sizing of them, and they are also applicable to each individual. So you can choose who sees this data and who does not. If we go to employee trend analysis, this is where we're seeing more of our full-time employees by month, our hires and leavers, and the salary and benefits by month as well. And then finally, you'll notice a change in that we're looking at 4 different dashboards here, whereas before we were looking at 1 long one and 2 individual ones at the bottom. Again, these can be reviewed in any way. That you can have as many of these as you like. You can have as many tabs as you like. So this will go much further if you want it to, but that's specific to each organization. You'll also notice that we can choose the years, the periods, and the subsidiary and currency here in the point of view, but this can also be changed as we go through the solution in different areas. Going down, we're looking here at our company expenses. So we're looking here more at the full organization. We can expand across the whole, the total employees to look at our existing and new employees and seeing really where the cost is coming from salary all the way down to bonuses, overtime, pensions, healthcare, and so on. So we can really add these as expense costs to our overheads and really see where the cash is coming in and out within our cash flow. Now this is overall company employee expenses. We can look at this at a departmental level. Now we're looking in the sales department and what I want to make you aware of is that there is a hierarchy to this. So for instance, your VP or director of sales will be able to see this information based on all of the employees within his organization and the new employees that are coming into the organization as well. But if we were to change departments, that sales director or VP of sales would not be able to say, for instance, look into the information from professional services. You as a finance and maybe the HR professionals will have access to this because you can set it up as such, but we don't have to give access to everybody for every department. Here we're looking at the company expenses. The information's gone because Thomas Anderson was a part of the sales department and also the product department at one stage. So we're looking at his overall costing to the organization from the sales department, which is what I changed it back to. Of which this is another dimension that we can slice and dice across and change to a different employee within either a different department or a different area of the organization. So here we have our employee actual versus forecast. This is just giving us a full level understanding of each individual employee, where the costs are coming from, which departments they're coming from, and the overall total salary and benefits thereafter. We can look at employee by department. So this is giving us a good understanding of where each person sits, one being a whole. So we can see again, Thomas Anderson is 90% within sales, 10% within professional services, and then as of March, as of this month, he's moved over to 10% within products. And there we can really see that it's coming up to a whole, and really getting the full understanding of how he's applicable to the organization from a departmental level. We can do the same from the full-time employee by department, where we're getting a full understanding of each individual person by department level. So we're looking at departments here, the sales being 1, and who's got a 1-for-1 or a 0.5 attached to each of these to each of these departments, of which we can change within the point of view tab. We also have our employee headcount. So this is a 1-for-1 on when an employee is with the organization and when they've left or when they haven't started. So you can see here that Tom Anderson was with the organization throughout FY20, but left before January of 2021. Finally, we are able to review by grade category. So we're really understanding from the sales department at total employee, the costing of the total salary and benefits for permanent, contractual, and undefined grade, meaning they're probably a contractor of sorts, or maybe they're on an hourly wage, which is the reason why this information's here. We've also got our our hires and leavers, as well as the FTE on each of these areas too. And then finally, when we get down to the bottom, we're looking at the baseline assumptions. So we've got the general instructions here, which are for you as a user, and if you want to make any changes, and you'll see why when I move forward. So if we look at our annual assumptions, we're looking at the annual inflation increase and what month that's applicable to, being August right here. The annual increase by percentage, so what each employee is applicable to an increase in salary, and what sort of percentage that will be, and the number of years it takes to get to that point. So for instance, the number of years it takes for an intra-grade move is 2. The month that usually happens is within May, and then for those who are in, say for instance, professional services, might also have a bonus structure as well, and when that's applicable to, so the month of November. Now here, what we're looking at is really related to the tax year assumptions. So when the tax year is applicable, the type of national mandatory national insurance information and the percentage behind it, the upper threshold of that mandatory information for the national insurance, and then the different types of pensions and the level of contribution to that pension. And then finally, we've got our grade-based annual assumptions based on the type of gradings, what levels and what pay grade they are, and what will be needed in terms if there is an annual salary override, like what we saw in the first tab here. Now, how that's applicable to pensions and how it's also applicable to healthcare. And then finally, when we're gathering this information and pulling it back in, firstly, we want to understand from the actual perspective of where it's mapped to from our general ledger or ERP system. And then also when we're putting the forecasted numbers back into the system at a later date and where it would be going to. So we have our base salaries and bonuses attached to salaries and wages, overtime to other benefits, national insurance on the payroll expenses, pensions in pension, healthcare in healthcare, and then the London weighting is based on other benefits also. And again, all of these are at drop-down level, so you can really understand here where you're adding these to, and if you want to remap them to different areas of the solution or gather that information from different areas. Okay, so that is the workforce planning module within NetSuite Planning and Budgeting. I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint now, as we've got roughly about 4 minutes left. So here we're at the Q&A section. So Campbell, were there any questions that came about at all through today's session?
Not that's come up from this. From me on that, you know, when you've got the drop-down options that come down for, say, when you're looking at a certain person's department that he works in and such, and you can select which department they're in. How is it quite easy just to add a new department in there? or is that something?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. It's just
Yes, entirely fine.
Yeah.
So subject for demonstration, they were all preloaded from a CSV upload from a HR system, which would have all of those in there. But in the background assumptions areas as well, that I had shown you earlier on, there's in that guide area, there's also a part that will show you how you can add additional departments. For instance, one that we notably don't have within the tool is finance, and finance are usually who we work with. So.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, just because I saw you selecting them, I thought, oh, that was an interesting point. If you just try and get additional items put in there. So no, that's great. Thank you.
Not a problem.
So just from a Nolan's point of view, if you would like to connect with us, we've got a number of different avenues that you can do that on. So we've got regular blog pieces on our website that covers a variety of different aspects within NetSuite and the add-ons and such that go with it. You can follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn. We've got a number of YouTube videos. We've got some previous ones that Mahdi's done, actually demonstrations and such for introductions into NSPB. So head over there and have a look at those as well. And you can also find us on Facebook. So yeah, please do connect with us and you can keep up to date with all the promotions and news items that we've got. As Mahdi said, if you've got, there's a third webinar that's happening next week, which is on the 17th of March at the same time. So that's 12:30 until 1 o'clock. And that is on the what-if planning element within NetSuite planning budgeting. So if you'd like to any more information on what you've seen today, please just give us a call on 01252 811 663 or email sales@nolanbusinesssolutions.com, and we'll be more than happy to help. So for the time being, many thanks for your time. We'll look forward to seeing you next week, and thank you, Mahdi, for your time today. And have a great day, everyone, and stay safe.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank
Bye
you.
now.
Bye-bye.